Hi, it's Dave. Tesla just announced that they're suspending production at their Fremont and New York factories. In this video, I'm going to share some spontaneous thoughts on how we got here and what's going wrong. Alright, this past Monday, the county of Alameda, along with 5 other counties in Northern California, announced a shelter-in-place order that basically bans all business activity except for so-called essential business activity. And Alameda County deemed Tesla's factory as non-essential business activity. However, Tesla argued that they were nationally critical infrastructure and cited federal law. Over the past few days, there's been a lot of drama, and the county and Tesla has been talking, and Tesla at first agreed to reduce their headcount from 10,000 to 2,500. However, that appears not good enough for Alameda County. As a result, Tesla is suspending production in their Fremont and New York factories from March 24th to April 7th. However, there's a lot of frustrating things about what's going on. First, this 3-week shelter in order that Alameda County, along with other NorCal counties, have put in place can be extended far beyond, let's say, the initial 3 weeks. Let's say after 3 weeks, cases are dramatically up, they're still not, let's say, on the decrease, then Alameda County can actually extend the shelter in place order for another 3 weeks or so. And after another 3 weeks, it could be another 3 weeks. There's a lot of unknowns here, especially with timing. In the meantime, Tesla has a lot of bills to pay. They have to pay employees, they have to pay suppliers, they have lots of expenses going on. Just their operating expenses per quarter is at $1.1 billion, but that's not it. Tesla also has expenses called cost of revenue, which is the cost to make the cars, which is separate than operating expenses. So the 10,000 factory workers, let's say at Fremont factory, they're not actually part of the operating expenses, most of them. They're part of the cost of revenue, which is a separate line item. So this is probably another few $100 million per quarter that people aren't talking about. But it's not just Tesla that needs to shut down and incur hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of expenses. Rather, it's hundreds and thousands of local businesses in the region. They're not able to get revenue because their businesses are shut down. They can't pay their employees, and their employees are losing their job. Unemployment is skyrocketing, and there's massive pain going on in the local economies. Now, I understand the health officials' intention and goal is to stop the spread of the coronavirus, and that is important. However, are they really considering the economic cost before they're passing this extreme and dramatic ban on business? And we need to ask, who's paying for all this? Let's just calculate this for a minute. There's actually 8 counties now in Northern California that have the same shelter-in-place order, overseeing 8 million residents. During this 3-week shutdown, you have to think there's massive economic pain and hurt. I would imagine on the average, take 8 million people and average probably about $1,000, let's say, per week of economic loss. Now, this is just an average. There might be some that don't have that type of economic loss, but there'd be a lot of other people that have even more economic loss than that. And it's not just individuals, but it's businesses as well. So if you times $1,000 per week for 3 weeks, that's $3,000. For 8 million people, that's $24 billion. So here we have this mandate that's costing $24 billion of pain and hurt for 8 million people in the region. Now, who's paying that economic cost? Is it the individuals that are paying for it? Is it the governments that are paying for it? Is it local? Is it city government? Is the county government even chipping in? Is it the federal government? Is it going to be companies that are going to foot the whole bill? And did the health officials even consult with local, city, and federal governments regarding this $24 billion cost? Did they consult with these governments saying who's going to pay for it, who's going to chip in? Or was it an extreme haste that they quickly got together to try to stop this virus without considering and without accounting for who's going to pay for the massive economic cost? Now you could say, oh, but they're doing it for the greater public good. There's no choice. We need to stop this virus. But I counter with the question, where were these health officials back in January and February when we had a legitimate fighting chance at this virus not to cause economic destruction? We could have done rapid and early testing back in even January or even February, and it would have prevented so much of what we're going through right now. I think health officials most everywhere completely botched the most important time and the most important effort that was required regarding this coronavirus, and that was the early ramping of testing. Now you might say there were federal restrictions and guidelines, and it wasn't just up to local officials. Even with that, these county health officials have responsibility. Hey, show me the records of these county health officials that they contacted their federal authorities saying we need rapid early testing right now back in January and back in February. And also, I want to ask these county health officials, how much money did you guys really spend on early coronavirus testing back in January and February? How much was it discussed even in local governments during that time? And now by completely botching the early testing of coronavirus, they just let this virus spread rampantly without control. These are the same people that are entrusted by society to look after the public health of our citizens. Yet they completely botched the testing, let this virus spread, and now they pass an emergency 3-week ordinance that will cost probably $24 billion without even thinking about who's paying the economic cost for that. All right, Alameda County, San Francisco County, Santa Clara County, all you counties in NorCal, but this everywhere, right? This shelter-in-place order is being copied across the country. I want to ask these counties and these health officials, what percent of this economic devastation that these ordinances are causing are you paying from your county funds? Just in NorCal, out of the $24 billion of economic costs in the next 3 weeks, how much are the counties really going to pitch in from their budgets? Is it even going to be 0.1%? If these counties and health officials would have just spent even 0.1%, right, of the $24 billion right, economic cost of pain that their ordinances are causing. If they were to spend $2.4 million, let's say, back in early February to secure early testing, they probably could have secured like 100,000 tests or so. And I doubt that Jack Ma even spent more than $10 per test. Max maybe $20. I mean, that's like $10 or $20 million for 500,000 tests. And you're telling me that the 8 counties in Northern California overseeing 8 million people can't even spend $2.4 million to secure like 100,000 tests in February? And because of their mistakes, now they have to execute this extreme economic devastating order costing $24 billion to people and businesses and companies and even governments? And then this order that's going on in Northern California, it expires on April 7th. So let's say they extend it for another 3 weeks. That's another $24 billion of pain. So that's $50 billion in pain in just one region of the country. And this shelter-in-place order that NorCal is doing is being modeled all across the country. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of economic damage going on. And it all could have been avoided if these health officials, this government, the FDA, the CDC, all would have stepped up to make sure that the US and all locales had plenty of early testing capability for coronavirus back in late January to early February. Now I understand the position of these health officials and government leaders. Most of them were caught off guard. They didn't realize that this virus was so potent and so contagious. And in the US, there's just a lot of bureaucracy to go through. And many of these health officials and government leaders, they're well-intentioned people. And they actually might be doing a decent job in a slow-moving, kind of typical world. However, in a crisis world where things are moving 10x speed, where it's just like super speed and every day is like a month, we need the exceptional leaders who could see beyond, right, just the surface things, who could see beyond just reacting to things, who could see beyond just the mob hysteria, who could see with vision and clarity ahead. And I think right now we're paying the price for the lack of good leadership in our country. The leadership completely botched the early testing opportunity and let the virus spread rampantly. And now this same leadership is ordering these massive extreme shutdowns across the country. And they say that they have to do it, but they're not answering the question who's paying for it. And now we have the federal government trying to spend $1 trillion or trillions of dollars to try to support and give life support to the economy. But who's paying for the trillions of dollars of cost and pain that the earlier mistakes of our government leaders have incurred? Do we just borrow the money, stick it in the federal debt, and pass it on to our kids and our future generations? Is that the legacy that we want for our country? That we're a country and a people who just kind of pass on our problems to future generations and don't think about it and deal with it right now? No, I think we need to face the problem and we need creative solutions. We need wise solutions. We don't need reactionary solutions. We don't need hasty decisions that are made without considering the consequences across the board. We need to think about the impact to these local businesses and to people who just live paycheck to paycheck. Where are they going to get the money to pay their bills? All of this needs to be part of a comprehensive plan that's not just reactionary, but makes sense and actually is smart. There's a lot of unknowns going forward. And there's a big question. Will local governments and federal governments continue this practice of kind of complete shutdowns and bans of the local economy? Or will they start to move toward more creative and smart solutions? Will they look to other countries who have been more successful in mitigating the spread of coronavirus than our country? I worry that an insular, egotistical nationalism has spread so far that we are reluctant and delayed in learning from other countries. There have been a lot of countries in Asia who've been successful in mitigating the spread of coronavirus in their countries. Look at South Korea, look at Japan, look at Singapore and Hong Kong and Taiwan. The list goes on. My hope is that the health officials in local and federal governments have been swamped and just hastily kind of passed these ordinances and orders. But now hopefully they'll have some time to look at the examples that these other countries have given us. A lockdown might be a tool to use for a short period of time, but it's not the whole solution. An extended shutdown is just going to cause massive massive economic pain. And you might say, oh, it's all necessary. Look at the exponential numbers. Well, if you've been following my channel, I've been talking about exponential growth of this coronavirus for many weeks now. And I've showed you the charts and the spreadsheets and the numbers before. And I'm a believer of compound growth. So I'm not minimizing that in any way. What I am saying is whatever approach we take, we need to do so not just in reactionary haste. Rather, we need exceptional leaders to step up who can see things in slow motion, who could consider the health ramifications, the social ramifications, the economic ramifications, the political ramifications, the psychological ramifications, just family and city and local structures. All of this is at stake right now. We can't just be reacting to emotions, or we can't just be reacting to mob hysteria. Rather, we need to see beyond the surface of things and really hit this problem on the nail. We need a solution that really works. I think the government needs to come out urgently with a comprehensive, smart plan. Rather than complete shutdowns of entire local economies, rather we need targeted shelter-in-place orders for the elderly and the vulnerable. And along that, we need to provide them with services from certified safe providers. We need mandatory health protocols for businesses that are in crisis areas. For example, businesses need to check the temperature of all their workers upon entry. They need to do regular and rapid testing of any employee that has any symptoms. They need to provide gloves and other sanitary equipment. And I say, hey, if everyone at the workplace, right, has tested negative for coronavirus, their temperatures are all being checked upon entry every day. They're wearing masks and they're wearing gloves, let's say, if it's appropriate, in their workplace. And they're keeping social distance, right? At least 6 feet or 10 feet away from other employees. I think in those cases, these businesses should be allowed to exist and continue business activity. This is just common sense. And this is what countries in Asia are doing across the board. I think there's this fallacy that these countries who have mitigated the virus have done these complete lockdowns, and that's not the case. A lot of the most successful countries have just taken smart measures to mitigate the virus and do so early on. They've taken smart measures in the workplace. They've taken smart measures, right, in public places. And they're doing a great job without devastating their economy. Our country is at a crossroads. It's a crisis. I understand there's a lot at stake here. But we need to see things accurately. We can't just look at the surface, and we can't just be scared of everything that comes our way. We have to see beyond to the core of the issue and to the core of the problem. And we need a solution, a comprehensive solution that nails the problem. This is the time where we need true leaders to step up. We need leaders who are humble, who are willing to learn and willing to do what's going to be effective, not just what looks good in front of people. And we need leaders who will come up with creative and wise solutions that will get us through this crisis without ruining, devastating our economy. All right, if you want more information on this targeted shelter-in-place idea that I talked about, please refer to my Twitter account at HeyDave7 or look at my last video that I just posted. If you're interested in mandated business protocols that I talked about also, please look at my last video and also my Twitter account as well. We need to start discussing these things, and especially we need to start looking at the examples at the countries that have been successful in mitigating the spread of this virus. And we need to have an open mind to come up with creative and wise solutions. All right, that's the end of my rant. See you guys later. Bye.